Good afternoon, YouTube audience and Facebook community. This is Jennifer Noreen with Big Dog Gary Parker,
Hook 'em
uh,
horns, guys.
owner and chief something at Barbecue to You in Gig Harbor, Washington, near on Point
That's
Positive.
Chief Executive Officer to you,
That's right. Oh, the CEO.
CEO.
Yes. So we're going to talk today. We did some research and figured out what your top barbecue questions are. So we're going to ask Gary, and Gary hasn't had prep time, so this will be his true blue answer to these barbecue questions. If you have a barbecue question, please put it in the chat and I can grab it before the end of the time. We're going to be talking here for about 15 minutes. So, Gary, our top question for you today, the first one anyway, is what do you consider the top barbecue grill? So, if I am shopping and wanting to make this amazing brisket at home, what would I purchase? Do you have anything you recommend?
Oh, the one that I like most, and the one that I have sitting right over there outside this window next to me, is
Mm-hmm.
a Lang cooker. Okay, that is a reverse flow cooker. You build big stick fires in the back of it, just like you see on the ones on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And a reverse flow cooker is really special. And you can always recognize them because the chimney's on the same side of the pit as the firebox. And the reason for that is because when you build a fire, all the smoke and heat is channeled um, below the meat, all
Mm-hmm.
and comes back around a baffle plate and comes back around the top of the meat to exit the pit. Okay. Now this is different than what you will see with Aaron Franklin or some of those guys who are using flow through pits. All right. So they have the big firebox on one end and they have the chimney on the other, and the the smoke and the heat just go across the meat once and exits the deal. Those are very inefficient, and they don't cook quite as fast, even though they're very popular, right? So I like the Lang barbecue cooker the best. It's they're all custom made. They come out of Georgia, and they'll ship them anywhere. They make a real nice one too, which is for the patios, like a single cook. It's a miniature version of the trailer pits that I use, right?
Nice.
And they're really just a fabulous cooker.
Okay, and you just for the audience, you're saying Lane, Lane.
Lang, Lang.
I'm glad I asked. Lang cooker is what
Yeah, I
Gary.
believe his website is warthog.com.
Oh, okay. I think I should take some notes and post some of this on social media.
That'd be
So
good.
warthog.com.
Warthog.com, I believe what it is. But you can just type in Lang barbecue grill or barbecue cooker, and it'll pop right up for you.
Okay, so warthog.com. Lang cooker is Gary's number one recommendation for what kind of grill should I buy.
Right.
And furthermore, another question coming up here for you. That's a very popular question, by the way. It's asked in many different ways. What do you think is the top barbecue recipe? What do you think which recipe are you most famous for at the restaurant? And then what's your personal favorite?
Well, as everybody knows at the restaurant, because I grew up in Texas and because I am a bit of a Texas historian and those kinds of things, I follow the methods that are used down in the capital or barbecue capital of Texas, which is called Lockhart, Texas. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did a posting on this one time where we showed the map and that kind of thing when I was doing the crawl. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's the best recipe is on the brisket, and basically everything we cook down there. It's how we cook in the store. It's just salt, pepper, and post oak wood, right? Occasionally, if I'm doing something special, I'll run mesquite in the pits up here, but for the most part, it's that's just the way we do it back home. Now, saying that, we can go into the Kansas City world, right, where they use hickories or some of those sweeter woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then their method is really interesting, and I like it. I do it because they're mixing a smoke with a sauce, right? Also like this in Tennessee and Kentucky a lot, where they're rear engineering those sauces and the smoke to go together, so that when they're cooking the meat and they're mopping them, right, to keep them moist, um, the flavors blend, right? And so those are some really exciting flavors that are really really good, right? Um,
Yeah.
and so it's just not what we happen to do here in the store, but I do them sometimes on the trailer pits and stuff when I'm out doing special events, right? So that's how I'd answer that one. There's different styles. You know, you move a little further into the Carolinas, right? And you look at what Rodney's doing out there. He's doing whole hogs, right? So when he cooks, he doesn't do case meat like we do in Texas or here. You know, he takes entire hogs ready for cook, right? And he does pig roasts for almost everything he does, and that's also a combination of he's got a rub that he likes to put on the pig,
Hmm.
and then he mops it through the process, right? That's yet another kind of way where you're blending spice with smoke with sauce, right? So he's using all three, right? So lots of fun, right? And those things. But I'm a Central Texas guy, and I stay true to the to my 200-year-old recipe now. I just realized that the other day that it's 2023 and this stuff comes out of the early 1800s, so we're almost 200 years old on these recipes.
Wow, your recipe's 200 years old. That's impressive.
Yeah, and I've learned it from those multi-generational families that live down there in Lockhart. So I pay homage to them by doing it here.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you need to write a book, Gary. We need to put all this information in a place where people can sit and read it and get it all dirty and yucky on their barbecue grill on the weekend.
Let's do
Uh,
it.
that'd be fun.
Mhm.
Okay. Here's another one: barbecue versus grilling versus smoking.
Yeah.
What's your preference?
Well, barbecue is smoking, so we'll combine those two,
So those are okay. Those are one and the same
right?
to you. Okay.
You
So
know,
barbecue
I think a better question is,
versus.
gas grills versus charcoal versus wood fires, right? I think that's pretty much what you're talking about. Um, it all depends on what you're trying to do, really. I really like my gas grill that I have out on the deck because I can do the hamburgers and I can, there's a difference between smoking a steak and grilling a steak, right? And
Mhm.
we really like our grills out there because there's just a time when you want to flame kiss it and have that kind of flavor, right? So grills are great for that. That's what they do. So will charcoal grills, right? If you want to go through the setup with the charcoal and burning it down and doing
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And then, on both of them, you can put a little smoke in it if you want, because you get the really thin chips or the sawdust or whatever, and you kind of get it smoldering over in the corner. You can lay a little smoke, on that. But mostly I like staying pure to the tool, right? And so when I want flame kissed, garlicky butter, quick flame twist on a nice sirloin or T-bone or what have you, I immediately go to the grill, right? If I want low and slow, right, and even when I'm doing tenderloin, filet mignon, those kinds of things, right? If I want that smoke ring and I want that smoking bit in, incorporation, right? I go over to my stick cookers, right? So they're all good, right? And it all depends on the flavor that I'm looking for, right? It's
So
what I'm
stick
what
cooker, you mean you're lost me there.
oh, stick burners. That's the same thing as the offset smoker, right? We say that because we get firewood and we build and firewood's called sticks, right? And we build big fires in the firebox and let the indirect heat and smoke cook versus when you're on a grill, whether we have gas burners or whether we have charcoal, and the meat sits right over the fire, right? So that's really the difference of what you're talking about when you go between grilling and smoking, and in that smoking is generally offset cooking, and grilling is generally over fire.
Got
Notice I
it.
use the
Wow.
word generally a lot, so people can write and say, "Well, you were wrong when you said this," but no,
Yeah.
I'm speaking in the most general term that I can.
Well, you've educated me. My goodness, there's a lot to know here. So, what do you think your number one most unique barbecue tip is? Like, what's the one thing you think you do that is the most unique to how you approach the craft?
How I approach the craft is how fast I can do it. Right. A lot of what I did when I was, I've told you the story on here before. I set out at that trailer pit. I probably got 20,000 hours or more on that pit. Just learning the characteristics of it. The hot zones, all these kinds of things, right? That you do. But
Mm-hmm.
the overreaching thing was if I was going to do volume, right? If I was going to do volume like I do today, right? What were the little tips and tricks that make this go faster and more efficient? And that's probably the thing that I can hang my hat on against all other pit masters, right? Is how efficient I can make that process.
Yeah, so efficiencies probably has to do with your tech brain.
Yep.
So if you had to name, and I know you don't want to talk about your competitors, but if who are you most impressed with? I know we've talked about Franklin's, we have, several in the area, but also just several in the nation I know that you love. But if you had to pick one,
Had to pick
uh,
one.
that you couldn't eat your barbecue anymore, but you were going to have to eat this barbecue for the rest of your life, who would that be? Would it be Black's?
Um,
Who would that be?
well, it depends on what I'm eating that day. If it's brisket, I'd probably go to either Krautz's or Black's.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to get sausage, I'm going to go to Smitty's or I'm going to go to Southside Market, right? Because they just do it better than everybody else. And it's really kind of interesting on that one too, is because um, if you really study the history of those families, one of them, the Blacks and and Krautz's are German families, right? And Smitty's or Czech families, and so when you can trace the stuff, their focus back to their family lineage and how they when their families migrated and what they were doing.
Wow, interesting. You know more about barbecue than probably anyone I know, which would be appropriate since.
Well, Central Texas barbecue. There's so much more I need to learn. I would love to go spend a year with like Rodney out in South Carolina, right? Helping him. That would just enlighten me a lot more. There are places there, Nashville and Kentucky and Alabama, Mississippi that I haven't even been to yet. That I would love to go spend time, cook with them, and do what we do when we shoot the bull, right?
Yeah, you need to
Yeah,
plant yourself in Tennessee and just tour the circle,
yeah.
Mississippi, Alabama, all that area there.
Yeah, and then buzz up to. I'd love to go do the same thing up in Kansas City with some of those guys, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
all I really get to see of them right now because I don't have the time to travel and go do that, or I don't have an invitation to do it either, right? So, but yeah, it'd be really cool to do that and just get to know those guys.
Yeah, for sure. So we have some really interesting other questions. You can pick one. When do barbecue grills go on sale? When should I use sauce? What's a good time to use sauce? Um, when should I use charcoal?
Hmm.
Let's see, we already covered what kind of grill. Any of those pique you at all? Want to answer those?
Yeah, the girls go on sale whenever they have a surplus of them. Usually when the best time, the least expensive time for just a production grill and offset smokers, those kind of things. It's right after Memorial Day when school starts, right? And you're
Mm-hmm.
going into October because that time of year, people don't think much. They're all done with barbecue for the year, right? And
Sure.
for the most part, and they're not planning to cook out on their back porch unless they're crazies like me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so usually it's September, October, or November timeframe. You don't. I mean, in the as you approach Thanksgiving, they jump back up in price again because there's a lot of purchases of those for Christmas presents and things, and so it gets to be popular again. So that was that. And when do I use sauce was the other one of the other questions I heard you say.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you want to, really. It's about making your cook plan of what you're going to cook that day, right? So, for example, I love the natural, just a natural smoke flavor of oak into pork ribs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there are days where I really want sweet ribs, right? So you smoke them really good, but then you go in and you baste them with my sauce, right? And then you wrap them and then do the render with the sauce and the and that kind of thing, and let the sugars and stuff penetrate in. Yet other times, I'll use a mustard in our red rub that we sell in the store, right, and coat them before we cook them,
Mm-hmm.
and then a lot of the brown sugars and stuff in the rubs, will crystallize, and so that's yet a different flavor. So you use it when you want your flavor, the flavor you're going for, right?
Yeah.
Else you just put it on the table and use it as a compliment, when you're at the point when you're eating.
Right. I think it's best when you don't need a sauce and you're just adding it
Well, I do too.
because, yeah,
You know,
for sure.
there's a lot of stories about when pitmasters use sauces, they're covering something up, right? So At least
Yeah,
that's
they're coming up a mistake, right? A bad day.
yeah.
So here's a question. So why are grills so expensive? Why are the good ones so expensive? I mean, from an outsider's point of view, it's some black metal, it's a grill. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's not.
cost of the grill. I mean, what the heck is it?
Yeah, so first of all, it's the steel, right?
Uh-huh.
The steel market is just outrageous, particularly right now. And you can look. One of the things that's majorly different that everybody misses is how thick the steel is. Okay, so if
Mm-hmm.
you go over here to Lowe's and you get an offset cooker, it's just rolled sheet metal. It went through a
Mm-hmm.
factory. They rolled it, they welded it, and they put it in there, and it's really thin. It's like 10 pieces of paper thick, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at my trailer pit, right, that's not, it's thick, it's heavy, it's a little over a quarter-inch thick when you
Mm-hmm.
when you have hardened steel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Much different kind of steel, much hardened steel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the reason why we want, professional cookers want that kind of thing is because when it's really, really thick steel like that and hard, right? It once it gets hot, it stays hot. So I can open the door and I can check on things, right? And I'm not impacting
Mm-hmm.
the cook, right? Because that steel can carry that much radiant energy, and keep it even though I got the door open. When you have those little thin ones like you get at Lowe's or Home Depot, what have you, as soon as you open the door, it's like you just lost 25 degrees, right? Just like that. All right. So now the pit's got to work hard. You've got to work hard to put an extra chunk of wood on or what have you, to regain that heat quickly, because the meat's just going to sit there and stall until it gets
Yeah.
the temperature it wants, right?
So you're paying for the quality of steel is your
You're paying
answer.
for the quality of steel
Yeah.
primarily, and then whatever IP, somebody's got on the design, right?
All right.
IP stands for intellectual property.
Yeah.
So one guy will build it one way, another guy will build it another, right? One thing I don't like, you didn't really bring it up. One thing that I don't like to do barbecue wise, which means the kind of stuff I do, is I don't like gas cookers, right? When we do the closed cabinet kind of stuff like I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really don't appreciate that. I don't trust that. As far as venting the fumes, and so that's the reason you'll always see me with a stick burner or wood burner type of pit. When I do grilling, that's a different story, right? Because you're trying to get that really clean flame and kiss the meat and give that clean, and which is fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a big lid and you're opening all up, so it vents. Everything is fine. But when you're doing that closed 12-hour cook like I do, I don't like gas cookers when I'm enclosed like that.
Yeah.
I can,
All right.
to me, in
Well,
my palate, I can taste it, right?
yeah.
When people are doing, and I say that because there's a couple, quote unquote, professional grills out there, or smokers out there that are gas oriented, and I just never have become a fan of those, and because I can taste the gas, right?
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask you is where should I buy the best grill? And you've already kind of told us that it's Lang's, but you don't have any local. I mean, if you had to pick like a local source besides Lang's, where would you send
No, because
somebody?
not from a local standpoint, because I order like I said, I order mine from Lang and have them shipped in. But one of the other interesting things, both Texas and Washington here, for a lot of the enthusiasts that I cook with, they make their own. They're all welders
Mm-hmm.
of some kind or another, and so they study the different intellectual property, or how different guys make them, and
Mm-hmm.
guys and gals, I should say, make them, and then they decide what they want to do, and then they'll weld it up themselves, and that becomes part of the fun too when you're somebody like myself, right? Because it becomes a whole thing for a month to go assemble this thing, weld, cut all the plates, weld the plates, design and calculate airflows and those kinds of things, and then get to go cook on your own creation, right? That's a
Yeah.
ton of fun.
Wow. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about what makes a good barbecue grill expensive, or I should say oven, sorry.
Mhm.
We've talked about where to buy one. You're recommending Lang's. Talked about sauce and the controversy around sauce. There's a lot of good things we talked about. We're going to do this again.
We are.
we really want to hear people's questions from our particular audience. I'm going to post it a couple times on social. Make sure you guys let us know.
Yep.
About barbecue. So thanks, Gary Parker. He's a local pitmaster in Gig Harbor, Washington. And I can put up, well, why don't you just tell him what your phone number is, Gary? I can put the website up.
253-313-5656.
Yep.
That'll be the store.
All right. And he's also scheduling for, oh, wow, that is not correct. I'm going to hide that one. Sorry. TexasBarbecueToYou.com, not barbecue2you.com. If you're interested in having Gary cater one of your events, he's happy to do that, and he loves doing that. He wants to be out in the community, so you can find out about that on his website too, and it's TexasBBQ2You.com. And of course, we're also on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We have training videos and kind of fireside chats on YouTube, and we'll be doing some more on YouTube soon, so keep an eye on our channel there as well. So thanks, Gary.
All right. See you soon. Thanks, guys.